We all know, of course, that Active Directory is a mature technology. It's been around for more than 20 years, and there hasn't been any really significant update to it since Windows Server 2016. So what is changing here? Well, of course, Active Directory is still widely deployed, especially in large organizations that require on-premises services and all the authorization and authentication that goes with that. And it's vulnerable, and we know that it's been vulnerable for many years. So what Microsoft is really doing with this release is making it a much more robust technology in several areas, but of course most importantly security. Now there's a whole list of changes that Microsoft is making to Active Directory with this release in terms of security improvements. I can't list them all, but the 6 most important that Microsoft highlighted were LDAP support for TLS 1.3, improved security for confidential attributes in Active Directory. LDAP will prefer encryption by default. There's new encryption coming to Kerberos, and it's getting support for AES and SHA-256 and 384. Changes to the default behavior of legacy SAM RPC password change methods, again of course to make things more secure, and Kerberos and PK INT support for cryptographic agility. So obviously that's a whole list of things that are hopefully going to make a difference. Now, one thing that did strike me is that they said as part of the presentation, NTLM authentication, which has been for many years considered a legacy authentication protocol, of course Kerberos is what Active Directory uses by default, is really this time on its way out, and Microsoft is taking more concrete steps to really deprecate it. So how are they going to go about doing that? So the problem is that Windows still falls back to using NTLM in some circumstances. Now, what Microsoft would prefer is that, of course, we got rid of NTLM and that Kerberos was the only authentication option, and they're taking steps to make that happen. So, a couple of things. Windows 11 is getting a Kerberos key distribution center. Of course, that's something that only exists on domain controllers at the moment. But what this is going to do is allow local accounts for the first time on Windows PCs to use Kerberos as their authentication method. So that's a big step forwards. Essentially, the KDC is going to be available in all versions of Windows going forwards. They're also introducing a new technology called IA-Kerb, and this is a set of extensions to the publicly available Kerberos standard. And what this allows a device or a client device to do is to authenticate using Kerberos even if it doesn't have a direct line of sight to a domain controller, which is what is required today. So essentially this acts like a proxy technology. So a client can authorize through a Kerberos proxy, which itself has a direct line of sight to a domain controller, even if that client doing the authentication or requesting the authentication doesn't have that direct line. So another interesting development as well. There are also some performance enhancements coming to Active Directory. The database is going to be upgraded to be based on a 32K page size, so that's a big increase from the current 8K. So you'll be able to have much longer multi-value attributes. So assumedly some organizations are hitting a barrier there with that. There's going to be NUMA support in Active Directory, so it can actually use all of the CPU cores during any processing operations. Administrators will be able to increase the system calculated replication priority. So if you want to replicate a particular domain controller in favor of others, you'll be able to control that. And there are 3 new performance counters.